This next section, we're kind of talking about how to use technology in the operations, because we've already talked about how do we go find consumers, how do we message them, what do we say, right? How do we price it, what product do we offer? We've talked about options management and selection, how we optimize the revenue of the sale and all this kind of good stuff. Well, you know, as a builder, we've talked about this morning, be a retailer, be a retailer. We still are a builder. We still have operations, right? We still have a myriad of suppliers and a myriad of partners that we have to manage and deal with, and we have to optimize who we do business with and how we bring trades and materials in and how we pay them, how we schedule them. You know, all of that is critically important to our business as well. So this next section is really kind of delves into how do we use technology to improve that entire supply chain and kind of the operations side of the business. We have Ken Pinto with us, who is a renowned author and consultant in this space nonetheless. And on top of that, he's even a builder himself. So this is not some talking head that doesn't happen to know about home building. He's an expert builder all in his own right, but he has really delved into the space of supply chain management and how we can use supply chain management. It really is a competitive weapon in our business to drive efficiency and profitability. We welcome Paul Hansen back to the stage here as well. Paul, thank you very much for coming back as well. Paul again from Epcon Communities, but he's going to talk about how you work with some of your trade partners and your software vendors to improve supply chain. So after Ken talks about it overall, he's going to give us a builder example. And then of course we have Monica Wheaton from ECI Solutions, who's one of the premier and largest suppliers of back-end systems for builders in the supply chain. And Monica is going to help us on the panel, and we're going to talk about kind of what builders need to think about as to how to use technology to showcase their operations. So with that, we're going to get started. And again, write your questions down. We will have a more active panel in this session. There's less presentation time. Ken's kind of going to give us a good, significant presentation across why supply chains matter for a home builder. But there'll be less presentation time, and we'll have more time for Q&A and panel discussions at the end. So Ken, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Great, thanks.
Welcome to the stage.
I'm going to start out with some background. So I started in construction when I was 11 years old. My last 2 years of high school, I built 5 houses. I joined the Navy Seabees in construction for the Navy for 14 years in Spain, Cuba, Guam, Japan 3 different times, and several military bases in Southern California. I left the Navy Seabees and went into the production home building business, and over 19 years, I worked for Shea Homes, Pulte Homes, Standard Pacific Homes, and Toll Brothers.
We're sorry. Aren't we? We are. No, I'm sorry. And are you looking for empathy or support group?
And in those roles, I either ran the construction department or the purchasing department or both. So I am a carpenter, a mason, a plumber, an electrician, a heavy equipment operator, most pieces, steel worker. My dad was a steel worker, and pretty good surveyor. When I left the service and I went to Shea Homes, I started out as a superintendent. Something strange happened. Someone did some drywall damage in one of my houses and didn't fess up to it. Oh, it's happened to one or two of you guys too, huh? And so I got to pay for it. I don't know who did it, but I got to pay for it. So I pull the contract folder and I'm going to see how much I need to pay him. So I know how many square feet of damage there is, so I'm going to pay him the square foot price. Plus he's already gone, so I can pay him a trip to come back here again. And so I open the contract folder, I'm looking for the unit pricing, and I can't find it. There's just one big lump sum number for the whole drywall contract. I thought, well, the purchasing manager must have this information. This is just the abbreviated or summary information that they sent out to my construction trailer. So I called the purchasing manager up and I said, hey, I can't find the unit pricing anywhere. I'm trying to do this change order. I want to pay the fair price that you've already negotiated into this contract. I can't find it. He says, he goes, we don't use unit pricing. We use lump sum pricing, and we use the competitive bid process to make sure we get the right price. And then we write change orders based on, well, is reasonable. Now, to this day, I have no idea what reasonable means. Not only do I not know what reasonable means, but how in the world could you make that a consistent process across 18 different communities that we had in that division? What is reasonable? And I likened it to this. I likened it to going into a grocery store. And you've got your grocery list for a week's worth of groceries. And in this store, there are no prices on any of the products, nor on any of the shelves. But You need your week's groceries, and you go up and down the aisles, and you fill up your shopping cart, and you get to the cashier, and she rings you up and says, that'll be $246.16. And you're curious. You say, I'm just curious, how much is the milk? And she, in a very practiced way, says, it is not our policy to expose unit pricing to our customers, but we think that the environment and the selection and the service will keep you coming back week after week. And if you were to compare your week's worth of groceries here to somewhere else, you'll find our prices are competitive. Still not really sure what she just said. You say, I just want to know how much the milk is. And she folds her arms and scowls at you. Nobody would shop at that store, right? So there is no one who would shop at that store. Nobody would. But in the home building industry, we do it every day. We have a lump sum contracts, and I can point you right now to a guy who spends $150 million a year on labor and materials as a purchasing VP. He doesn't know how much he pays for a sink, a front door, or a sheet of drywall. And I've come to learn that that's important. I have slides, huh? Mm-hmm. Now, I wrote this book like it was the only book I was ever going to write. I gave away all the secrets. All the supply chain management secrets I've come up with are in the book, so that anyone who reads it can pick it up, hit the ground running, and create some great supply chain efficiencies in their organization. But what I really wanted to write is a book on supply chain analytics and how analytics can drive behavior changes. Now, if you think a supply chain management book is boring, wait till you read the supply chain analytics book. But this is what got me excited. So this is what happened. I'll give you one of hundreds of examples. So I have this process where I measure drywall. I don't bother doing takeoffs for drywall. I just go into the house after it's built with a tape measure and a clipboard, and I measure every wall, every ceiling, every closet, and I know exactly, and I measure to the inch, not to the foot. I know exactly how many square inches of half-inch drywall and 5/8 drywall are in that house. I know that a fair waste factor to apply to drywall is 9%. So I take my actual installed numbers, add the 9% waste factor, and that's exactly how much drywall I should be paying my drywaller to purchase and install. We also keep an eye on what gets stocked into the house. And so I'd call my construction manager and say, hey, when that house gets stocked for the drywall, I need you to go in there and count the sheets and tell me whether they're 10-foot sheets or 12-foot sheets, and count the sheets, and take your crayon and draw a big arrow on it so that if we know someone steals something, off the top, we know that it's missing. You'd think I was asking them to pull a front tooth. Oh my goodness. And is it that hard to get a construction manager out there to count the sheets of drywall? Oh my goodness. So sometimes I had to go out there and do it myself. And I did it because it was important. Data is important. So now I've got, this experience. I've got 12 to 18 months worth of experience across 4 different divisions, worth 4,000 houses a year, and now there's a ton of data. Now I can look at it and identify things. So one of the things that we identified is that we had a subcontractor who was working in multiple divisions in a large geographical area. And when we can take the exact amount of drywall it takes to build the house, what was it stocked, we can tell what the actual waste factor is. And we identified that on several communities that there was an 18% waste factor instead of 9%. And so we brought this to the subcontractor. We brought him into the conference room. We laid out all of our measurements, all of our documentation, the graphs, and showed him what he identified for us that we didn't spot, is that was the same crew on every one of those communities. So he had one drywall crew that was wasting a lot of drywall. Now the drywall subcontract industry is a little bit strange in that they get paid extra to waste more material. That's something we gotta fix, but not a topic for today. So these guys, if they have extra drywall, will cut it up into pieces, throw it in the front yard, and get paid for it. So as soon as this contractor found out that he had a crew that was wasting double what they should have been, that was an opportunity for improvement for him, an opportunity for him to train his people, a training identification. He said, I never would have known if you didn't show this to me. Why not? He's been in business for 24 years. They do tens of thousands of houses a year, work for builders, big, small, and medium, custom homes, production homes. Why would he never have known that he had a crew that was wasting double the amount of drywall?
They don't measure anything.
Because they don't look at that. He's managing drywall installers. He's not managing data. So Supply Chain Analytics can be a great book. It'll cure insomnia like crazy, but man, it's going to be great. And there are things that we can do. There are skill sets that we have as a home builder that can complement what our subcontractors and building materials suppliers are providing, if we do it right. So this is my thought. So I think that material takeoffs are the responsibility of the architect. I think that when the architect sends you a set of drawings, it should come with it a complete bill of materials of what it takes to build that house for every trade category in that house. Now, it may just say kitchen faucet, and then you can add in what kind of kitchen faucet, but at least he's going to say one kitchen faucet. That bill of materials that we pull off of there, we can transfer directly into subcontracts. That goes out to our subcontractors. No dual entry, no copy paste, this is the way it should flow. And then the contractor does the work. We have invoiceless payments. This is when the construction schedule task is marked off as complete. The checks get wired, and money gets wired directly into their accounts. In addition to that, we need to communicate to more than just our subcontractors, because our building material suppliers and our manufacturers need this information. Now, if you start a house and the plumber knows he's got that house to build, he knows what kind of faucet and when the faucet's going to be installed, probably 4 months ahead of time, right? Then why is he giving his distributor 24 to 48 hours notice before he needs the faucet? Squandering any opportunity for a distributor to optimize inventory control. Because now they have to over inventory SKUs and quantities of SKUs just in case someone's going to order it, just in case inventory is very expensive, and all of us pay for it because it's included in the price of the materials that we're buying. Manufacturers the same way. Ask a manufacturer someday, hey, how do you guys know what to make and when to make it? You know, which color, which SKUs. It's one of the most difficult things that a manufacturer can do well. And those manufacturers that are good at it will tell you that they're not trying to guess correctly what to make and when to make it. They're trying to guess incorrectly less often. And they'll use statistical process control and Six Sigma controls to guess incorrectly less often. It shouldn't be that way. We know 4 months ahead of time what kind of faucet we're going to need. All we have to do is to tell them, but we don't. As an industry, we don't tell them. You think, well, does it really make a big difference? This is what I want you to do. I want you to go to those manufacturers who sell to big box stores, any big box store. And so your appliance, your door hardware, anyone who sells to a big box, and ask them what the difference is in their operating costs for what they do. You know, because Home Depot, Menards, Lowe's, they order 60, 90, 120 days ahead of time, giving the manufacturer ample opportunity for demand planning. Our industry doesn't allow demand planning to occur because of us ordering 24 to 48 hours before we need it. Now, this pandemic, which has created a crisis, we think have caused some supply chain problems? No, it most certainly did not. It just exposed the supply chain problems that we have had all along. There are things we do as a home building industry which we can use to help our suppliers of labor and of materials. Your framing contractor probably used to be a framer. Your electrical contractor, you probably used to be an electrician. Your finish carpenter probably used to be a carpenter. The core competency of a subcontractor is installing materials. And in my investigation of multiple divisions across multiple companies across the nation, about 15% of them are good at it. About 15% of our subcontractors are good at managing materials. The rest of them could use our help, because what we're good at, because what home builders are good at, is managing processes, right? We manage the land acquisition process, we manage the land development process, we manage the construction process, the purchasing process, the warranty process. We're very good at managing processes. And we have a desire to manage data. We have technology systems in our back office to manage that information. Our subcontractors don't have that same core competency.
Or the tools, as you said, they don't have the software tools.
Because they don't ask for it, because they're not looking for it. They don't see it as a problem that needs to be solved, right? So it's going to require the builder to take a leadership position and to manage those materials. You know, if you've unbundled your lump sum contracts into unit price contracts, you've gone on that road, the subcontractors, they'll be like, why? Right? Why do you want that information? Because they think you're just going to take it and beat it over the head with them. They don't realize you're going to take that data and analyze it and find out that he's got a crew that's wasting more material than he used to, than they should be. The core competency of a home builder is that we're great at managing processes. We're good at managing data. We do invest money in technology. Our subcontractors, not so much. There are things we can do to help them become more efficient. Think about this. If the plumber was not a subcontractor, but he was a department in your company, would you treat them the same way as you do right now? Would you communicate with them the same way if they were a department in your company than you do today as a subcontractor? Probably not, right? You would probably communicate with them much, much better if they were a department in your company. You'd have meetings together, you'd go down the hall and go, I can't believe you called me out to the job. It wasn't ready. You told me it was ready. And then they would solve that, right? Like right there. If not, they go to the next guy's office and go, can you believe this just happened? And so we would solve those things pretty quickly and get them done, get them solved permanently. For some reason, since we outsource, we feel like we don't really need to do that. We don't need to communicate quite as well as we do as if they were members of our own company. But we do. We really, really do. If we want them to be good at what they're good at, there's an opportunity for us to complement them with what we're good at. Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is an interesting concept. I tell you that I talked about the distributor who has to over-inventory SKUs and quantities of SKUs for that just-in-case inventory. The just-in-case inventory is very expensive. If you have time, I highly recommend you go sit down with one of your lumber and building material distributors and have them describe to you what the cost of inventory is. In every distributor, their number one metric is number of turns, number of inventory turns. That's how they measure the success of their business. And have them tell you what happens to inventory turns when they get 60, 90, 120-day notice. Their inventory turn, they can service the same amount of business with a smaller inventory, which equates to increased number of inventory turns. They make more money, which means that they can lower your price. Manufacturers who can make the right thing at the right time, they can source their raw materials and components much more accurately than they do today. And then when they make something, they won't have to put it in inventory. Inventory is like a four-letter word to a manufacturer. They do not like inventory. That inventory is something they think is a job of a distributor. So when they get stuck with inventory because they made something that no one ordered and didn't buy, oh my gosh, it's a big thorn in their side. They would love to be able to have enough information so that they could do proper demand planning to eliminate that. It requires great data. Without good data, you cannot analyze anything. You've got to get things nailed down to the SKU level, managing those SKUs. Now, I'm not saying you have to buy direct. I'm not a huge proponent of builders buying direct. Some are good at it, most are bad at it. But I do want you to have some control over the flow of information. The best question I ever asked, and I asked it a lot, hey, what is it we do that's costing you money? Now, the first time I asked that to subcontractors, I got a pretty safe answer. All right, I'm the customer. They don't want to say anything to offend me, right? So they're pretty safe. No, things going pretty good. Then the fourth and fifth time that you ask them, they're like, oh, well, so-and-so, that your construction manager out that community, man, every time we go out there's something wrong. There's some reason why we can't get her. The 10th, 11th, 12th time you ask that question, now they're really talking to you. They're telling you about things that we do that's costing them money. And that puts you in a position to where you can start lowering each other's costs. Because if you can lower the cost of doing business for a subcontractor or a lumber and building material distributor, it's going to come back to you. It's going to come back to you in lower pricing. More than that, it's also going to come back to you in most favored nation status, preferred builder to work for. You having trouble getting tubs right now? Well, someone's getting their tubs, and you want it to be you. You having trouble getting windows right now? Well, someone's getting their windows, and you want that to be you. And sort of things that you can do besides just paying more than anybody else that sets you apart as the preferred builder to work for. And when you have that relationship to where you're working together to lower each other's costs, now you've got a good supply chain machine running. Those are my thoughts.
Ken, that was fantastic. Paul, I know you have some examples of how you can get at some of this waste as well. A practical example for builders. Why don't you take it away for us?
Well, most of us as builders, when we think of BIM, we think of it as a software of some kind to house and manage our plan collections. And it does do that. We've found, I think, a solution that I would refer to as BIM Plus, where it not only houses and it's where we maintain our plan collection, but it flows through into our marketing assets, our sales process, our purchasing process. So we'll talk a lot about that and how it affects the supply chain, and then to our construction process as well. So my presentation was a little broader than just the purchasing supply chain side of it, but I thought it'd be insightful for all of you to know the pain points that we were trying to solve when we went to this solution, and what the workflow looks like, what the customer sees, what the back office sees. So I have some slides and some videos to go through that, walk you through what we're doing.
Fantastic.
But as recently as 3 years ago, our collection lived in AutoCAD. So many of you would be familiar with that, what that means. It's static marketing assets, stock brochures, manual takeoffs, and master plan sets. Believe it or not, as recently as 2019, we were submitting for building permits off of master plan sets that we would take and hide layers and try to make it as site-specific as possible, but it was still a master set. So our goal in going to the solution that we're working now is a sales process where our marketing assets are dynamic. They change as the plans change over time. We're able to have customers visualize what they're buying in real time, and then automated takeoffs and POs and some really cool viewers that we have online and that we can do in browser mode that I'll show you, where we can actually see where all the windows and doors go in a house, and really allows for a lot of transparency with our trade partners and that just-in-time mentality that we've been talking about. And then finally, site-specific plans, where there's no more questioning, is this a reverse house or per plan? What did they pick in this bathroom? It's all on the drawings and customized to the buyer selections. So to give you a sense of what our process looked like before we made this jump, it was very disjointed. So we designed in CAD, we'd manage our options in our ERP, we'd use something like Timberline or Bluebeam for estimating, then we'd go out and order marketing assets off of those CAD resources, and then construction drawings off the CAD resources. So the goal was to go to something where we'd eliminate that disjointed look, and we'd have something that was integrated, a single source of truth from the beginning, where we design a home, we're able to visualize it, personalize it, and then move on to detailed site-specific takeoffs and construction drawings. Just as one really tangible benefit everybody in this room can understand, we can now, because again, our marketing assets are tied to the actual floor plans, we can do photorealistic renderings in 72 hours versus ordering them, reviewing them, making sure that they match the plans, because again, it used to be disjointed, plans here, drawings here, it's now all connected. So the first step in this video should start playing, yes. Sales consultant meets at the sales center with a prospect, starts selecting the floor plan that they want, then they pick the elevation. All of our homes start as a ranch. There's an option for a second story, so they can pick that here. See, they can spin the house around. You can toggle between an exterior 3D view and then a floor plan view. And on the floor plan view, as they make different options, you'll be able to see that it'll turn blue in the floor plan, so they can see what they've done to the house. And color schemes are on there as well. So next step is going to be some of the structural options that we have buyers select at contract. Again, as they select things, it turns blue, appears on that floor plan. Idea being, we want to get to the point where we have a complete contract by the time this process is done. We're able to submit for permit. We still are using a physical design studio. We also use Envision to help visualize what the design studio options look like. But for the most part, we're just doing structural options in here. Now at step 2, this is where it gets exciting, especially for the customer, really enhances their experience. After that configuration is done, they get an email where they have a link where they can view what they selected. And it's locked, so they can't go home and make changes to it, but they can share it with their friends, they can post it on social media and spin the house around again. And then they also have access to a personalized brochure. So we're trying to get away from the stock big fat envelope you hand out in the sales center, and instead they get a personalized brochure that only shows what they've selected, only shows their color scheme, their elevation, and has a list of what they selected in case they can't remember. That'll pull up in just a minute. So we didn't cheat and speed up the video, so you're seeing what it actually looks like based on internet speed. Now we're at the point we've written a contract. We're ready to start generating construction drawings, going for permit within a day or two of writing a contract. And it's as easy as this. The back office goes into the platform. They click download PDF of plan file. It's going to kind of work in the background, solve. It's grabbing all the different options that the customer selected and generating it into a plan set. But again, this is a matter of 10 to 20 seconds that it takes to do this, and you'll see it's a full set of drawings that pop up and are specific to what the buyer has selected. So this has taken our permit sets from 45 to 50 pages under the old system, now down to about 10 to 15 pages based on a different plan type. Again, all very specific, and there's even a schedule at the beginning of the document that shows how many linear feet of wall, how many windows, all those supply chain benefits that we've been talking about.
And how does it do takeoffs in that? You don't do takeoffs on individual plans, I take it. You do it kind of up front, but does the system do it automatically?
It does it automatically on a site specific. So that's what you're looking at right now. So this is the key measures viewer where you can go through, and this foundation view is particularly fun for me because we have pretty complicated foundations with different depths and thicknesses. Here you see the framing, so you can see where every stud should be. And there is a CSV file that then the purchasing manager can download that's specific to that house and has details on what type of window, how many studs, how many LVLs go into the house. So our experience, the big benefits that the entire team has seen, just the living marketing assets and that enhanced customer experience of being able to see the house built in real time in a browser setting that they can then view later. Time savings on drafting. It would take our team anywhere from 3 to 4 hours to go through and hide the layers and generate a permit set. Now it's done within 30 seconds or so. It's really however long it takes to print it. And speed to market with new home designs. Using something like BIM software is a lot faster in our experience than the old way of designing new plans. So we had some conceptuals last year in Indianapolis where we were doing some rear garage designs. And within 30 days of having the conceptuals done on that, just floor plans and elevations, we could go live with this software and start selling it because it was so much faster to draft in. And then transparent purchasing. We can provide all of our contractors with really detailed information on how many plumbing fixtures, how many windows they're going to need within the next few months because we have this capability where it's all itemized.
Do you include MEP in this, or is it just structure?
It's structure, and we do have MEP pages in there as well.
And who does the MEP design?
That's done by an outside firm, and then the software has the ability to grab the image of that plan and tag it, and then we program in the quantities that go with it. So that part is not automated.
So when you go to a plumber and you're quoting the home, you're handing them a plumbing diagram and design with a list of bill of materials that says, this is what we want you to build, instead of asking them kind of how much is this
Which,
gonna...
yeah, it can be challenging because
And you can just
owners
tell
want
me
to do it
to,
their
you can
own
tell me
way.
to shut up at some point in time, both you guys, but this is just interesting to me. Is kind of how it works?
Yeah, the pushback is they want to design their
Yeah, of course they do.
HVAC is the same way.
Because otherwise, I don't know what to do with my Sawzall. I can't cut through all of your truss joists. That's a big problem.
Right, that's what I want to do. I want to drill a big hole in the...
Uh-huh.
Some challenges we've had, learning a new drafting language. This is different than CAD or Revit, so there's been a little bit of a learning curve. We found that it is a lot faster though, so the benefits have come already. And big one, both internally and with trade partners, is weaning them off master plan sets and brochures. And there's a lot of hesitation of that in our industry. Old habits die hard with what we do. So I get it. I like seeing big, thick master sets, and the salespeople like having 10 different brochures they can give to somebody versus sitting down and actually getting a sense of what they want and personalizing configuration for them. But that's starting to go away once they see the power of this experience and how much more efficient it makes us.
What an incredible story. That's fantastic. Well, we're going to enter into kind of the panel session right now. It's a good segue. So, Monica, I kind of have to ask you, just from a technology vendor in this space, helping builders, what are some best practices, perhaps, that they could consider? Because I know a lot of builders want to do all this, but then they just go, oh my, it's just too hard. It's going to take too long. We don't have the staff, so we end up living, with decades-old technology for too long because of the fear. So what could we do to assuage some of that?
Yeah, no, I can definitely talk through that. But first, if it's okay, if I can start with a little bit, I just wanted to say that I've known of Ken for a couple years, but I just met him about a couple years ago after he wrote the book, How Much is the Milk? And I picked that book up, and it is a wonderful, wonderful book. I can't say that enough because having been in the industry, I worked for a company, I ran Builder Partnerships, which is a rebate management company, and we would collect information from builders and submit them to manufacturers for rebates. And it sounds real simple, but over time, as we got more and more builders involved, we started really collecting the data and reporting that data back to the manufacturers. And it was actually phenomenal, the amount of information that the manufacturers could glean, because surprisingly, they don't know where their products end up. They produce certain products, they sell it to a distributor. They don't know if it's going to go into inventory or if it's going to get sold, and then the distributor just orders more. And so when I started reading that book about how you can impact the supply chain by collecting some of that data and passing that information back, not just to the suppliers and trade contractors, but all the way back to the manufacturers, and how we can have such a big impact on the industry and the profitability within the industry because of data, I just was blown away. It was just phenomenal. And especially with the fact that we know as builders, when a contract is signed, what products go into that house, and yet we don't share that information with our suppliers until 5 days before we need the product on site. We need to change that. And that's part of the reason that I decided to come and work for a company like ECI, because ECI is an integrated management solution, or we provide many integrated management solutions to help builders operate. And we deal with a lot of data. So we don't just work with builders, we work with suppliers, manufacturers, and we even have a product for trade contractors that we recently just purchased. It was developed by a trade contractor, so that's really nice as well. But to get to your question, what is it that builders can do? And it's just, you just need to do it. As a builder, you need to take the risk and start on a path, right? You're not going to get it right always the very first time, and it's not always going to be easy, but you need to get your team on board and adopt some of this technology, and realizing that it is going to be a lot of work. And there's never a good time to do it. There just isn't. But you can have a substantial impact on your company and on your operations by adopting new technology.
Could you give us some idea of what kind of resources would they need to commit for different size builders? So if I'm a single market builder, I build 20 homes a year or something like that, or maybe 25 homes a year. Do I need a team? Do I need external consultants? What's my commitment to say, okay, I want to go do this. I don't personally have the time to go do it. So what do I need to make this happen?
Yeah, well, and it depends on what you're trying to do and what the technology is, but you definitely need to have a champion within your company And you need to have the buy-in from your management team, because if you don't have buy-in from the management team, there's no way that the team can be successful. So at ECI and at many of the companies that do implement technology, they do have implementation teams that will handhold your team, but you do need to set some time aside to do that and have some of those resources available. So yeah, it just kind of depends on what systems you're implementing. An operating system could take 3 to 6 months to implement, and it can be pretty intensive. I mean, a lot of it is also getting your data in order. So if you're a pretty organized builder and you have good processes in place, then it's a little bit easier to then adopt the technology to follow along with those processes or to modify those. But if not, then it will take a little bit of extra work to make sure that you have certain processes in place and that you're standardizing some of the work that you're doing.
Paul, from your perspective, going through this, that was a pretty major transition for you to go through. What did your change management team look like? You know, did it take a year, 2 years, 10 years? You know, did you have dedicated resources? Did people just do it part-time in their job? What did that look like?
We didn't add any staff, so there wasn't any additional people. It took us about 2 years, and there were some external vendors that supported that, Simpson, Strong-Tie, and Hierarch. So it wasn't where we had to go out and hire people to do all this work. It was just a mindset change. Use their expertise, have them do some of the work. Yes, there was a cost to it, but we didn't have to invest in people. And we feel that we have a much better process today.
And when you say it was 2 years, you started it, you got nothing out of it, and then finally you launched it in 2 years, or is that kind of?
About a year to get ready for it,
okay.
And then we've been live for the last year in Indianapolis using that platform.
Great. And now you're going to roll it to other operations?
Yes, we're introducing it into Columbus last month.
And then give us some flavor of that. What is that? Now, once you did it in Indianapolis, which I'd call that the big kahuna, you made the decision to go tear up your processes and go do this, but now replicating it, doing it in another market, I take it it's not going to take 2 years. Is it smaller? Is it quicker, faster, or is it still a 2-year journey?
It'll be much faster. In Indianapolis was complicated by those new plans that I talked about, so there's a little additional work there. But in Indianapolis, we started there because that was an expansion market for us. So we felt like we didn't have processes there, so we didn't have to retrain people on how to use it. And what we're finding, we were afraid when we took it to places where we had been building for years, there'd be a lot of hesitation. But once they've seen the benefits and know that it's been working in Indianapolis for a year, there's almost no pushback from sales or purchasing on using this moving forward.
One of the other things to keep in mind with technology too is that you're never at the end, right? So as you adopt it more, you'll learn that you can leverage it more too. So you can continue to improve with the technology. For instance, like Lasso is a great CRM, and a lot of people who first adopt it, they don't necessarily realize all the different things they can do with it. But after a year or two, then you start integrating some more of those processes and changes the technology changes your processes, which change your technology and use of technology. So it's kind of the cycle where you're continually improving your operation.
You're kind of leveraging, or reinforcing the comments I made, to kick this off. That if you want to be a technology leveraged company, it's a journey. You can't wait for perfection. You've just got to get on the journey. You've got to decide that this stuff is going to be important, whether it's important today or 5 years from now. It really is relevant. You got to get on the horse. You've got to start making progress. You've got to start making some investments, because if you keep waiting for perfection, you simply never do anything. It's that waiting for tsunami problem that we have. This is a ripple, and there's a bunch of ripples here, and all of these ripples mean that there's money every single day that's flowing through our business. It's not flowing to our bottom line and could be flowing to our bottom line. And we could be capturing some of that tomorrow, and we'll capture even more of it a year from now, and we'll capture even more of it 5 years from now. But we won't capture any of it if we don't start. Any comments, last parting words?
And your question about how do you get started. And when I counsel builders, that there's a ton of supply chain methodologies you can use to control costs, to get your costs down, to increase your the capacity of your building material suppliers and manufacturers. Getting started is the key. When I went to write a book, I'm a carpenter, right? I'm not a writer. And so writing a book was a kind of a daunting task for me. But I just felt like there was a book inside me I had to get out. And so I had to figure out how to get it out. And a lot of the counsel that I received from other writers was just start writing. Oh, well, yeah, but I need chapter structure. I need how to do this. Just start writing. Well, no, but I need, I think I need to brush up on English. I've been to school in a long time. Just start writing is the counsel. And I would say the same thing for supply chain management. And I would say take it slow. Don't start with framing or mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. Please don't start with those. Can you count windows? Oh my gosh, really easy to count windows, right? Can you count doors? Yeah, really easy to count doors. Drywall? It's easier than you thought it could be. Actually, you do the living square foot times 4, you're really close to having the drywall right there. So start with 1 or 2 or 3 categories. Don't do more than that. And then start with the big stuff, right? If you're gonna do drywall, just do 1/2-inch drywall and 5/8 drywall, and call the other thing labor and sundry materials. So later on, years, when you get good at this, you can now take out nails, screws, joint compound, joint tape. But for right now, just go get the big stuff because that is the impact that your distributors and manufacturers will find valuable. And when they find value in the information that you're providing to them, that's what sets you apart. A question I get asked all the time from smaller builders is, hey, how do I compete against the big builders who have all this volume? By providing information that the big builders aren't providing. Give them 30, 60, 90 days lead times on all your materials, and you'll be set apart from the crowd like you wouldn't believe.
I hope everybody out here got as much I got out of this. Ken, you gave me an incredibly great idea. I heard, when I heard he wrote this book called How Much is the Milk, immediately I had an idea to write another book. I'm going to write a book on negotiating with builders, and it's going to be called More Than the Bread. What do you think? Huh?
I think it could be very complimentary.
And I'm going to sell it to every supplier out there, okay, to counter your logic. It's just more than the bread, okay? Well, thank you very much. Let's give a hand to this panel, and we're going to move on to our final session.